Worcester State University and the Robert F. Kennedy Children's Action Corps presents Children of Promise, the Legacy of Robert F. Kennedy in the Worcester State University Blue Lounge on April 4th, 2013.
My purpose tonight is to kind of say some brief introductory remarks about the evening, and how I'd like to do that is I'd like to tell you kind of how this all came together. In a minute I'm going to introduce one of our trustees, Terence Shanley, and Terry and I, during the course of some conversations about a year ago, Terry said, I'd like to orientate you better, Barry, about what the RFK group does and what we do on a regular basis. And you know, years ago, I used to work, when I was working at Worcester State, one of my jobs there was to serve as a career counselor. And working in career services, it became pretty apparent pretty quickly the importance of experiential education, how transformative an internship or a practicum or even a very carefully crafted volunteer experience can change a student's life and get them on a career path that gets them to where they want to go. So flash back to, again, that conversation a year ago with Terry, and Terry says to me, you know, listen, Terry, we have some opportunities at RFK that I want to talk with you about, because I want to talk to you about the ways that we can get Worcester State students involved, because these are not just jobs, these are not just summer jobs. He believed in his heart of hearts that these were career opportunities for our students, and that he was prepared with his agency to work with our students to dedicate some funds to help allow our students, if qualified, going through the regular screening process, to get themselves into these opportunities and transform their lives and get them on that necessary career path. So tonight, you are going to see a video that I saw a year ago that really outlines, I think, who the RFK organization is, what the populations that they serve, the work that they do to help transform our community, and really keep in mind as you're watching this to see where you may be able to fall into place with this particular opportunity, and where could you see yourself getting involved in doing this kind of work. I think, like I did, I was very impressed by not only the quality of the work, but again, the opportunities that lay there for our students. So again, thank you so much for coming, and at this time I'd like to introduce one of my 11 bosses, Terence Shanley.
Thank you, Barry. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I do want to thank Dr. Charlie Fox and Provost Colin for this evening, and their teams, because a lot of work went into tonight. So thank you for hosting the Robert F. Kennedy Children's Action Corps here this evening. We were very fortunate as an organization to, about a little more than a year ago, to be asked to be part of a documentary. And the way it started was the Investigation Discovery Channel, NBC Peacock Productions, was doing a documentary on Robert Kennedy and his life. And they started their work through Washington. And basically what they found out was there was a living memorial to Robert Kennedy here in Massachusetts. So they came to Massachusetts and interviewed the president of our organization and a number of other folks, and decided to really refocus. So what you're going to see tonight in this film is some historical footage of Robert Kennedy, but it also focuses on three individuals who are were RFK clients, now are RFK successful family members, quite honestly. So that's what you're going to see in about a 45-minute film. Just so you're aware, there are 3 interruptions in the film. Those were for TV commercials during the television presentation. You won't have to watch the commercials tonight, so we'll get you right through that. We're also going to have 2 out of the 3 stars of the film, if you will be on our panel tonight. Our panel will be moderated by Dr. Tina Adams, who's with the Criminal Justice Department. Tina's right over here, and I'll allow her to introduce the panelists. And then we'll have closing remarks by Dr. Charles Fox at the end of who's actually the Dean of School of Humanities and Social Sciences at the end of tonight. And then we'll have time to mingle and talk with some of the folks here. So hope you enjoy the film, and again, thank you all for being here.
Thank you for being here. It's so great to see such a turnout. And I want to also thank my students who are in attendance here tonight. Special thank you for taking the time. I am Dr. Tina Adams. I work in the Criminal Justice Department as a faculty member. And I have the distinct honor and pleasure to introduce our panel this evening. So as I introduce folks, if you wouldn't mind coming up, I'm sure that everybody is excited to hear from all of you. So first up is Alan Klein, who is currently the Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at the Robert F. Kennedy Action Corps. Next, we have Bianca Fonseca, who is currently a junior at Bridgewater State College. She is a sociology major, and she's also an activities coordinator at the Home for Little Wanderers. Next, we have Ulises Robledo. Works for the Robert F. Kennedy Action Corps as a residential counselor, and he's working with youth aged 6 to 11 years old. And last but certainly not least, we have our own Worcester State student. She's a senior, Erika Anderson. Erika is currently an intern for the fellowship program at the Robert F. Kennedy Action Corps. So I would like to open with a few questions that we have for the panel, and then I will open it up for the audience to ask questions, okay? So what advice would you have for young adults in the community who are facing some of the challenges experienced by Bianca and Ulises? Anyone?
I can go first.
Okay.
Some advice would be just to think positive. Positive things will happen. For me, it was, I knew I wanted a better life for me, and I knew that I needed to appreciate what I had and all the struggles that I went through in order to be a better person and in order to overcome everything that I had gone through, and that's what I did.
Thank you.
For me, it was making achievable goals that I can actually accomplish. Nothing overly dramatic, but usually ones that I can use as a stepping stone to accomplish what I could.
Well, I'll also add that Massachusetts is rich in human service agencies. Just in Worcester alone, while we are a nonprofit agency, we compete with other nonprofits. It's a weird situation where we're also connecting with them all the time and doing joint ventures. So, for example, just in this area, you have U-Inc., you have another program, Key, you have Straight Ahead Ministries, and that's just a name. I consider all naming other agencies. And it's knowing that those agencies, like our Children's Action Corps, are available to help young people. And I think the other piece to that is that while Ulises and Bianca may not initially know who those agencies are, it's the professionals that are in this room tonight. And it's also their peers and other adults that they trust, that if they open up and talk to them and say, I need help, that they'll get that help.
Thank you very much. Sometimes youth have difficulty communicating their needs or navigating the service system that we have here in Massachusetts. What guidance would you have for them, and how can we, as a community, and particularly our Worcester State students, how can we work to overcome barriers like this?
I'd probably say, the RFK program itself does a lot, and I think, if people, branch out to the RFK program and, work with us and do what they do with us. It needs more support. But a big thing that helped me was, making those small goals, and things that, like at the RFK program we have a different program, that's obviously working with the mini bikes, it's one of those things that if you have one particular goal like that, anything is possible.
I just think having a strong support system is the key. Having adults in your life to be positive role models, and that's what RFK gave me, and being in the girls group that I was in. And I think knowing that, they're always going to be there, they're always going to support everything you do, I think that's the key. So.
Yeah, and another thing was, the staff of the RFK program were extremely helpful with, understanding my background and all the things that I had and all the troubled youth and all the struggles that I had with my parents and not having a lot of support around me. And that's a big factor when you raise a child. You need that structure foundation around, a person that's always going to be there to support you and through all those struggles of school and friends that could do good things or bad things, and that's what you have that person like a family to obviously structure that foundation. And RFK was there for that. They were there when I had my struggles with anger. I had my counselors who always gave me daily goals that I can achieve, and I think that this program does a lot when it comes to making. I'm gonna go back to goal settings. Goals like even getting up on time, making up your bed, structuring the routines is a big part of everybody's day, and some people don't really have that, and that was a big thing for me.
And then I'd also add that communities need to offer children an alternative to the juvenile justice system. In the film, Ulises' caseworker, Kevin Funnell, says, "Are you staying out of trouble?" And Ulises' answer was, "I'm working so hard, I don't have time to get in trouble." And that's part of it. So it's jobs for kids. It's also activities. It's your local YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, and other agencies like that. And it's perhaps people in this room who can be advocates and mentors for kids, so that they have an alternative to the gangs that we heard what happened to Brian Hancock.
I'm going to actually broaden the question a little bit and just ask, what feedback do you have about the current juvenile justice system? What works well, and what improvements could be made in our system?
All right, well, I'll take that one. I actually ran secure treatment programs for the Department of Youth Services, and I'm a former Deputy Assistant Commissioner for the Department of Youth Services. Before I saw the light and decided that I wanted to stay at RFK for the rest of my career, which I have. But many years ago, in the 60s and early 70s, Massachusetts had huge training schools, Lyman School. The grounds that you saw Ulises on is actually the old industrial school for girls, which at some point housed hundreds and hundreds of young girls. For sometimes their criminal activity was just being poor and having no other place to be. So with the closing of those facilities, a lot of kids returned home. For those kids that couldn't return home, Massachusetts started a lot of small nonprofit agencies like RFK Children's Action or the other agencies I mentioned. So I think smaller programs, as opposed to some states that still have huge training schools, is important, so that Ulises and Ulises was not present in the juvenile justice system, but Brian Hancock got the attention that he needed. As a matter of fact, Brian, part of the story for Brian is that he accelerated so much in school that the teachers didn't have the type of books he needed. So they actually went out and got big elementary books for him. And the teachers didn't even know the trick. So they actually learned with Brian as he went through his education to help him graduate and to pass his St. Pete's. Brian today, by the way, is on the board of RFK Children's Action Corps. So that's just where Brian has ended up today.
Any other comments?
I'd say I've never been in the juvenile justice system, but the work that I do now, I would just say that they're not bad kids. There's no such thing as a bad kid. And I just think that, everyone deserves a second chance. And
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about this question, but now I just remembered something.
That's okay.
My brother has actually been part of the juvenile justice system for years. He's been in and out of jail for multiple years. He just came out of jail like last year, and I look back on things like that, and because of the RFK program, and if I didn't even go into the RFK program, I would actually be just like him, And I'm glad that there was a humongous transformation from, obviously what you saw, an aggressive person to, an outgoing person, because, I'm nothing like what I used to be, and, I'm glad of all the success that RFK has brought to my table and things that I can overcome that I probably wouldn't have overcome if I didn't end up in that program. And I always talk to my brother, he emails me letters, and I'm just always hoping for the best for my brother, because I know that if I'm there for him, he'll always try to strive to be succeeding in life. So.
Being an RFK Children's Action Corps, working for them in the Fells program, just spending time with kids, I think is really important. Just going outside and playing basketball, one-on-one, just saying you're there for them, to be with them, even if it's just playing cards or whatever. I think it really helps them a lot, just being there every day.
So Erika, you are introducing a good segue to the last question that I have, which is how can Worcester State students contribute to the work being done in the community to partner with kids who are struggling and trying to get that on track?
Well, like I said, there's a fellowship program in RFK, which they take students from Worcester State, and it's basically like an internship. During the summer you work full-time for them, you interview, spend time with kids, and then after that, you can intern there. And you still work with the kids, but you work part-time, probably 20 hours a week, and you also do an internship on the side through this school. It's a really great opportunity to spend time with the kids and kind of launch your career with, RFK and in general. So it's a great opportunity to kind of start somewhere.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience?
I have one for Bianca. You said in the movie, documentary, that initially you were hanging out at this liquor store. And I was wondering what it was that they provided that you kept going back there. I mean, I'm assuming there was a reason that you kept going back there.
yeah, it was attached to the building that I lived in with my mom, and I would always go in there to buy slush after school. And there was, I don't know, it's just, the owner had a young girl that I used to play with and go to the park with and stuff like that, so.
I wanted to ask Erika, what were your expectations going into the internship, and what was different, your concerns, how it worked out?
Well, concern, of course, initially is working with these kids, you know, am I capable of doing that, you know? Can I live up to the expectations that they have as being a staff member? And, you know, through training and, you know, learning what the expectations were, I was able to, you know, do that. But internship itself, it's basically, you know, whatever you want to make from it. You know, you get to choose your projects for the internship. And as long as it has to pertain to RK, but you get to choose, you know, so it's all, like I said, what you want to do with it.
Other questions? I can see someone in the back, but I can't see whose hand is up. Okay.
A question for Ulises. We came in a little late, but were you adopted?
I am adopted. I was actually adopted at 23. And my mother's over there.
Mom, stand up, please.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment on, you know, celebrating equality and also that you were adopted. I'm involved with my family through foster care and making a routine, and we've worked with young children. Making a routine makes such a difference in their lives. And, you know, looking at the people here, even if you can't do an internship or something, maybe you could consider connecting with youth through foster care. There's a huge need for that, and we've seen incredible change in the children that we worked with. And also just a question that kind of goes back to what we do in our house is thinking about nutrition. We've seen our foster kids and our family change drastically about nutrition. Our foster kids were eating most of their meals from, you know, Cumberland Farms, and it was amazing to see how happy and how changed they were by, you know, thinking about a balanced diet, you know, and also just as an adult myself, I think about, you know, how wheat or gluten and those type of things. So I was wondering if you were ever introduced to that and you saw that making a change, because you said you were so angry, and sometimes people say that anger has a lot to do with diet with young people.
Well, I don't think that most of my anger came from foods, but maybe you could have heightened it a little bit. But my parents are all about healthy foods. We have a lot of healthy foods, actually. So, but when I left RFK, you know, we have 3 meals a day. But when you leave programs, you know, you have so much access to all these types of foods that you didn't have when you were in programs. So obviously you can see in the video, I kind of blew up a lot because I just kept eating all these different types of foods. But you know, as the time progressed, I started taking food from my parents because they taught me a good balanced diet of fruits and vegetables, even like Middle Eastern food, because my parents love to eat Middle Eastern foods. So I ate a lot of that stuff. And myself, I go to the gym every day, and I don't drink soda, and I drink a lot of water. So it's like, you know, health is a big thing when it comes to even living with children. And at the RFK program, we have now a structurally adequate, balanced diet. You know, you have to have your fruits and vegetables, and if you don't eat your fruits and vegetables, you know, then we're gonna have to, you know, keep you a little bit more, keep encouraging all that fruits and vegetables, you know, because it's really good to have that balanced diet, and it structures the brain differently, you know. So,
I just want to add, speaking of adoption, a plug. We have Karen Cheney in the audience, who is our director of our Bright Futures Adoption Center. So when we break, if you would like to talk to Karen about the Bright Futures Adoption Initiative.
Question for the 2 folks who kind of graduated from RFK, but yet are working and in the field. How do you think your experiences have prepared you for the work that you're doing now? Or can you talk about ways in which you're better prepared to do the work that you're doing?
I never realized how much of a difference it is between being a kid. Transformation I've ever had in my life. When I entered the program, obviously, even in the video, I had problems with my speech and slowing my mind down, and not to overlap things and stuttering problems. I had a lot of them. But, working with these kids, they, don't watch your question, just one blank.
Just what have you learned that has perhaps helped you in your current work?
So, working with kids, okay.
Do they know that you were in the program?
Yes, they do. Sorry, they do. Most of the kids know that I have gone to the program. They ask me questions, and I give them an honest explanation. Usually most of them ask me when I'm they're on a timeout or in bad space, and they ask me, how did you overcome this situation? So I give them an honest I tell them what I did as when I was in their predicament and how I overcame with their situation.
Yeah.
So if a kid was in the smart room for swearing or for banging or being aggressive, I usually give them a small goal, like, this is what I did to calm myself down. And I usually use what helped me when I was struggling. I usually lean to them for that small, cheap goal. Hopefully that answers your question.
Anyone else?
So in watching your stories, it seemed like it was, like from your environment and what you learned growing up, like a real, hopeless kind of thinking, which you seemed to create a lot of anger. And I'm just wondering if it was like, if there was one event for each of you that was like really a catalyst to change that. I don't know if it was you just breaking down on yourself and feel that all that pain and that anger, or was it just like, the trust that built up over time through the program? But it was just like such a gradual thing, you know what I mean?
For me, it was big on trust. And it's mostly like that with kids residential. A lot of the parents, they might be there, but they're not usually always there for emotional support. And that's what it was big for me. And this is big, especially with young adults and teenagers, is testing limits. I used to just test and test and test until there was a breaking point. And if I didn't get what I wanted, I usually just got what I wanted by just acting out. So, but at the RFK program, they just, held back, and if I did have an outburst, I would obviously be handled. And the part that I loved about the program was that even though I had that outburst, they didn't push me away. It was more afterwards when I calmed down that they helped me on why I got angry and what's the next thing you can do if you feel these emotions to calm down. Because when I was growing up, I never had that. I had people always, when I acted that way, oh, you're just acting up, let's just get away with it. And obviously that doesn't help anybody because you're not obviously figuring out a goal to the next time that happens. But that's what it was. Just carrying and support and the achievable goals that the program gave to me.
What
can you repeat the question for me? I'm just like, was there a catalyst, you know, for you that shifted your thinking from just being hopeless to like, you know, realizing you had some hope and starting to, you know, behave differently, you know, was, you know, over time?
For me, in high school I was moved around a lot, and so I was like, I'm not finishing high school, I'm not going to college. And no one in my family is full of all girls, and they all have had babies at the age of 19, including my sister. And so she didn't finish high school. My mom, she finished high school but not college. And so, you know, I didn't think that was possible for me. And so being with the RFK girls, I see them, you know, 3 days a week, and they're filling out applications and they're talking, you know, about what colleges they're going to. And I'm in my junior year of high school, and I am nowhere. I got F's, I got D's. I was nowhere in good standards to be accepted to a college. And so then, as I saw the girls, you know, getting into college and leaving, I was like, this is what I need to do. And so I just went to school every day. I got good grades. I was able to bring my GPA up to 2.5 to get into Bridgewater State. And that's what I've done.
Another thing about that was kids in programs usually lean to one particular person or two particular persons they can always talk to, and it always depends on trust. And well, I'm over my whole leg again. But people usually pick particular people. I'm going to reiterate again, sorry to remember. But people pick particular, like one person, like me was Kevin, and he was the one person that even though that, you know, we had our arguments and we had our debates, he would always be the one person I could go back and talk to. And he wouldn't judge me for the things that I would say. But, you know, so that's, having somebody you can always come to acknowledge that they care about you is a big part of, obviously, residential. Because a lot of parents are not always there for their kids. So.
And Bianca, did you have a special relationship too?
Yeah.
That was obvious in the film. So, I mean, you know, we can create systems and policies and procedures and trainings and therapies, but it comes down to individual people that people connect with. And I think that was very important beyond that.
Yes.
Do you guys still use your short-term methods today, like your short-term goals?
Yes.
Yes. Every day. Go first.
Well, mine obviously was to graduate from high school and go into college. And as I said in the movie, in the documentary, I wanted to be an anchorwoman. So I went into Bridgewater State as a communications major, and as I was working with the organization that I work for now, I worked with youth aging out of foster care and helping them get into a higher education. And so that made me feel like, okay, this is my calling, and I loved working with them, and I just felt like it was right for me. And so I switched my major to sociology. And so now I'm in my junior year, and I hope to go to grad school for social work. So that is my next goal.
Are there any other questions?
Bianca, you've gone through several foster homes, so you know the system side, and you've gone through the RFK program where they kind of tailored, made a custom plan for you. So could you speak to how that custom plan and in the RFK program as opposed to the system side has really impacted your success?
Well, when I was in the foster care system, I was placed in different homes where there were other foster children. And being with RFK in the girls group, it wasn't just a program for foster girls, it was just a program for high school girls. And there were girls from different backgrounds, from different areas of Boston, different high schools, and I think being away from just foster care itself, because I hated the system, and that it kind of helped me to better understand the system and not hate it so much because it wasn't their fault, and so that's what
were the homes helpful in helping the children overall, or just the house?
The Home for the Waters is a nonprofit organization like the RK, and they have several programs, and one of their programs is called the Academic Support for College and Life program, and this program helps with students who are aging out of foster care. They do clinical services, they do educational services, so like coming in, I have a paper I need help with, I need you to edit it. They help financially for the first year. If there's any, any bills left over for school, they'll pay for it. Helping you with your books and just helping you get through your first year of college, because that's your hardest year. And making sure that for those 4 years or however many years it takes for you to graduate, that you have somewhere to live. And so they stay in the dorms for a year, and then they can transfer into the student apartments until they graduate. And so I did the program my first year of college, and it was very helpful. And I don't know how I would be if I didn't join the program, because my first year of college was hard. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
One more question.
They stated in the documentary that juveniles are entered into the program either by referral or court order, or even by state intervention. Is there a certain standard of circumstances that has to happen in a juvenile's life for them to be entered into the program?
Yeah, yes, they're adjudicated delinquent in order to end up in the DYS side of the program, the Department of Youth Services. And then for the Department of Children and Family, those are services that can either be voluntary services that are requested by family. It could be a care and protection case where a child is removed from their home because of the state feels that they're in danger. And then we have another source actually that wasn't mentioned, and we also have special education services. So a local school system may feel with the parents that a particular child cannot be fully educated in public school, and so a private education system is in order. As a matter of fact, our principal for our special ed here is here today, Val Payne. Val, you want to raise your hand? So if anyone would like to talk to Val about special education, she's available afterwards.
And I had Ulises in class.
We'll get the real dirt later.
He loves to sing.
Oh, we should make you sing, Ulises.
No, we're trying not to get him to act out.
Well, I want to thank our panel. I certainly want to give a special thanks to Bianca and Ulises for sharing this story with us. I do believe that folks will be around for a few minutes after. If anyone thinks of other questions that you might have, or just want to speak with them in private. I want to actually now introduce the Dean of the School of Humanities and Social Service, my Dean, Dean Charles Fox.
Thank you all for coming. It's a wonderful night. Tonight's especially meaningful to me. And I have written comments that I'll get to in a moment, but I want to share this with you. I grew up in the East New York and the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of New York City. And several of my friends started out life the way these two young people did, the way some of the people who filmed it. But there was no such thing as the Robert F. Kennedy Children Action Corps then. And they weren't as lucky. And I've seen firsthand what happens to people that need help and don't get it. So I'm thrilled that I'm new to WSU, and I'm thrilled that I joined an institution that has such a wonderful program to try to help people succeed in their life. So thank you. And now we'll get to the formal things. When you came in, when you came in, there was a sheet on your chair. It's just a little exit survey. You don't have to fill it out, but if you do, it will help us do better programs in the future. And there's also a space if you want to know more information about RFK or WSU or some of the programs we do, or if you would like us to contact you about setting up a program with you, let us know. Again, I'm going off script a little bit here. Someone, and I forget who, said that RFK's dream was to see people succeed. And I've been really interested in a conversation that's been going on in our school and the town halls we've been doing. And our faculty has dedicated themselves not just to helping people get into college, but helping people succeed in their lives. And they're recognizing and having discussions about the fact that getting into college is just a small part of that. And so we're reaching out to the community, we're reaching out to the high schools, we're reaching out to our community partners in so many different ways, and trying to truly be a citizen of our community and an institute that helps our community get better and change. And towards that end, you were introducing your wonderful people. We have lots of wonderful WSU people here, many of whom you've met. I want to introduce you to Mark Wagner in the back, who is our liaison with the RFK internships and also knows a lot about not only internships we have available, but how to set up internships if you have an organization that would like to work with us on helping provide information and education and experience to our students. So again, thank you so much for being here. We have horrible, horrible dietary treats over there. So I apologize to the woman who rightfully noticed that nutrition was important, but sometimes we have to stray. So please help yourself. Spend some time talking to each other. Spend some time talking to WSU, RFK, and to your neighbors. Thank you.